Could you explain to me about closing costs? What is typical closing cost? What actually is closing cost, and how much should the buyers allow for their closing costs?
So generally, closing costs are things like lawyers' fees, land transfer tax, and any miscellaneous things that could come up through the lawyer closer to the closing deed. So an example of a miscellaneous item would be, let's say you buy a house, and let's say you're closing on that house on July 5th, for example. So, but let's just say the current owner of the house that you're buying from, maybe they have paid property taxes to the city for July and August. Then you as the buyer would have to reimburse the seller for property taxes from July 5th to the end of August, because the seller has already paid that amount of property tax to the city. But then you as the buyer wouldn't have to pay those property taxes because you reimburse the seller for them. So that's an example of a miscellaneous item that could come up in closing costs. So generally for closing costs, banks want to see that you have set aside about 1.5% of the purchase price for closing costs. So for example, if it's a $200,000 house, that would be $3,000 set aside for closing costs. If it's a $300,000 house, that's $4,500 for closing costs, etc. It's just a general rule of thumb, so they could be a bit lower, sometimes a bit higher, but that's generally what banks want to see that somebody has set aside for closing costs.
Great, thank you. Thank you.